So we're doing something a little different now. We're going to go to our version of Shark Tank, which is called Tech Tank. I'd like to first bring our panelists up on stage. First, Liz Dinnsen from AT&T. She's the Executive Director of Media. Liz, come on up. Thank you. Let's give everybody a hand as they're walking up. Liz, nice to see you.
Thank you.
Liz and Kat have the best sneakers. Look at her sneakers.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Thank you.
Liz and Kat Greenleaf, the most stylish people.
That's the only thing we have in common.
Then we got Michael Nicholas, the Chief Experience Officer at Assembly, MDC. Some really smart folks over there. Good to see you. Then we've got Scott Pawloski, my friend who's the VP of Global Advertising for GEE, Global Eagle Entertainment Media, man. Good to see you, Scott. And last but not least, Joe, come on up. Joe Petrosino, Chief Revenue Officer at Health Media Networks. Everybody a hand for these guys. Come on, Joe. So we're going to do kind of our version of Tech Time. It's a series we may be looking at. I may play executive producer, but Scott's going to lead the first round as we're actually going to talk about what Bulzli is up to. And I'm basically going to turn it over to Scott. All right. Wonderful.
Thanks, Barry. Nice job today.
Thank you.
You had it wrong. I'm actually the head of advertising for Screw Magazine. If anyone's interested, please talk to me afterwards. But I noticed the crowd's a little less, so it must be the hotel. And you know, we don't have 8 hotels, but there must be something going on. So that being said, just trying to get your attention, of course, tech sells. But today we're going to talk about tech. And today, if you're selling advertising in any way, or if you're buying advertising in any way, it's all around the technology and the data that we can combine together to be able to prove the value of what we do. So we're going to learn over this next segment about 2 companies that are making strong efforts to help us do exactly that. For us to evolve to where Barry wants us to be and where this industry wants us to go, we must evolve with the technology and be able to put the attributes aside against what we do. And so to do that, I'd like to welcome Dale Hartzell to the stage here from Bulzli. Bulzli is a great new technology, and we're going to learn about them and then get some opinions and some questions. So Dale, come on up.
Blinded by the light up here. You know, that's a really tough act to follow that we just had before this, so we're going to do our best up here. Thank you very much for inviting us to present at the Shark Tank today. We are Bulzli. I'm Dale Hartzell, their VP Corporate Development. You know, Bulzli is really about this unique approach to delivering addressable, quantifiable digital advertising. What we're really trying to do is 3 key things with our technology out there today. The first of that is flexible selection of the target audience, and that means we're doing selection of audience at the household or individual level. We're using the marketing data that's being used by all the other channels, including web, mobile, and other channels that are out there today. We're using location data, we're using household data. We're combining all this together to give the advertiser the most flexibility in selecting their audience out there. The second key thing we're doing is reach. Because we are a digital network, we've got that ability now to connect out-of-home digital with mobile, with web, with addressable TV. That gives us a great opportunity to reach the same person or the same household across all of these channels with a campaign. And then the final thing that we're doing really is providing the attribution. Everybody wants to measure their marketing today. So we're giving you that ability, because we're a digital network now, to know when somebody has seen it in the at-home channel or the web channel or the mobile channel. To find out that they've seen the ad, but not only that they've seen it, but now we can monitor in a store location to say, yes, we saw that person show up at the store. So really, by solving these 3 key things with technology, we're bringing the same capabilities to out-of-home that are offered on the other digital channels, and really hopefully enabling a much broader and a more effective advertising channel for the advertiser out there. So our primary mission is delivering these digital ads to the actual audience that's present at an out-of-home location, whether that's a static sign, digital sign. And we want to show the right ad to that person or the group of people that are in front of that sign. And how are we doing this? Well, there's 2 real ways that we are leveraging technology to do this. First of all, we're leveraging mobile technology. We're actually getting billions of records of mobile device data from our partners, and we're using this location data anonymously to associate a mobile device with all the data that we have on that individual or household. So we're talking about Experian data, Kantar data, Nielsen data. It could be a private database for a retailer. We can link all these data sources together and make them available for the advertiser to use. And that gives us a broad reach. We've got demographic, geographic, interest, behavioral, in-market data. You can combine all of this together now because you have linked these devices anonymously back to these data sources. And I'm going to stress that anonymous over and over again. We're very serious about privacy at Bulzli. We don't want to be known as the company that exposes everybody, but we want to be known as the company that allows you to reach everybody without compromising their privacy. The other thing that we're doing is using all this long-term mobile data and real-time sensing to analyze the devices at the location and build the audience profile. So in real time, we're figuring out who's at a location. We are building that audience profile and then able to determine what's the right ad to serve that matches that audience that is there at that time. We're not relying on historical data. We're not guessing. We're using real sensor technology to do that. Now, one of the huge benefits then of linking all this data together, who is the person, where are they, what is the associated characteristics with them, it allows us to link them over to the other digital channels. So we're using identifiers that can be associated with their web cookie. We can use associations with mobile devices so that we can advertise to that person either retargeting or as a broad multi-channel campaign across all these different channels that are out there. And that's out of home, that's mobile, that's web, that's addressable TV. So you've really got unprecedented reach by being able to do this. So for Bulzli, what's the result? Well, today, right now, we have 4 million digital out-of-home screens that are connected to this network. We have connections to mobile ad networks, mobile exchanges, as well as web ad networks and web exchanges. We have 50 million mobile devices that are linked back to household or individual data. And we're still growing this every day. We have 120 million devices that are linked back to ZIP4. So we're getting very broad reach and have very strong ability then to link these back to credible data sources that can be used to target these audiences. Now, that other key thing I spoke about is the attribution piece of it. Advertisers today want to measure their marketing dollars. They want to know who saw an ad, when they saw it, what they did in response to seeing that ad. And because of the way that we've put this network together and the ability we have to deliver the ads, we can attribute what devices were exposed to that ad. We can compile information on who the audience was at the time the ad was shown. And we can monitor store locations to see what the response was. Did that device or person show up at the store after they saw the ads? You know, this gives us the ability to log all this information and really provide a rich set of analytics to our clients to give them really quite a broad view of what's going on. But the nice thing is this is the same kind of measurement that are being used on other channels. When I saw an ad on the web, did I click through to the mobile or to the website? Great. Well, now we're saying if you saw an ad in out of home, did you show up at a real location, at one of their store locations? Or did you go to the website eventually? You can actually link all of these events together. You know, based upon all these capabilities, let's talk about how an advertiser would deploy a campaign with Bulzli. First thing they're going to do is select their audience. We don't come to you and tell you there's a predefined audience. We have some, but we give you the flexibility to choose the audience that meets your needs. Maybe it's a female from 25 to 35 with a household income of $100,000 a year with an interest in skiing. That might be your target audience. Great. We will find those people for you in out of home, in mobile, and on the web, and in addressable TV. But we can also do that by taking lists of addresses from a direct mail campaign. You're saying direct mail campaign translates to out of home? Yes, we can find that audience wherever they are on any of these channels. That allows us to target location-based audiences around a specific location, such as a store. We might want to choose a radius and find the people that live within that radius. Well, we can target them on all of these channels now. The key for us is that we're actually targeting the audience where they show up, not waiting for them to show up at a location. And I think that's a key differentiator as we go through this. The second thing is once we've defined this audience, now we can provision the campaign out on the network. And we're going to provision it on out of home. We've got connectivity to mobile. We've got connectivity to the web. We've got connectivity to addressable TV. So now when we see that individual or household show up that's part of that target audience, we can display the ad to them. That gives us the opportunity not only to have our own campaigns, but also to leverage traffic that's coming in from those other channels as well to show into the out-of-home realm. That gives you great flexibility in reaching these people. And the final thing is, once we've run the campaign, actually even during the campaign, we can perform analytics to tell you how that campaign is performing. Who's seeing the ad? How many impressions have we done that were relevant to the audience you were trying to reach? Did they show up at the store location, or did we measure them coming into the website after that? So it really gives you that opportunity then to really see what the performance is of your campaign. And again, start to think about, do I make tweaks in the middle of campaign like I would do on a web campaign or not? It's not just fire and forget anymore by putting a campaign out there. So they say I've got 5 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up really quickly. Bullseye is fairly unique in the out-of-home industry. The way we approach this problem, the way we think about it, it's a very digital mindset. We're leveraging mobile technology. Everybody has a mobile device today. And that is the future that we see, that everybody's going to continue to have some sort of mobile device with them. And that gives us great ability then to monitor those audiences that we're seeing at all of these out-of-home locations and build those audiences around it. So again, the 3 key things we're doing: flexible selection of the target audience. It's about you, the advertiser, finding the people you want to find. It's not about us telling you who you should be reaching. It's about you telling us who you want to reach. Second thing is reach across all the digital channels. You know, it's not just out of home. You're putting together campaigns that have to reach the actual consumer wherever they're showing up. Again, over and over again, out of home, mobile, web, addressable TV, all through a single network. Buy one campaign, traffic it everywhere. And finally, attribution, attribution, attribution. It is so key for today's advertiser to be able to figure out if that dollar is being well spent. And that's why we're trying to provide all these analytics and measurements as part of this to really bring home that capability to you.
So I think I'm not sure if that's on, but if I think as we try to mock a great show on the screens that are at home, we will ask some questions for our sharks up here, our tech sharks. And so my question is, a technology like this with Bullseye, is this going to allow AT&T to think more about digital place-based advertising and be able to bring it, a bigger part of its medium and picture?
Possibly. I mean, we as a company are using digital place-based out of home. It depends on sort of our initiatives, whether we do a little bit or a lot of it, but we're definitely interested in doing more. We're interested in utilizing our data to reach our customers better and to reach potential customers better. I think for something like this, excuse me, we would want to do maybe a test, maybe in one market to see how it would work. We would want to know more about clients that you have worked with previously and look at some case studies and things like that. Our store folks, when they're in the store, are very busy selling our products and services. I'd be curious to know more about when you say the folks that work in the store know what ads the person has seen. What's that interaction like? Is it quick? Are they able to react if someone comes in based on a value offer or the strength of our network claim, or how is that communicated to the folks that actually work in the store? So yeah, all of this is interesting. I think the implementation, we would definitely just need to know more, and then we would want to test it first before doing anything at a big scale.
And what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, I have like a trillion questions, but first is, you said a lot of things. So if you were going to say, what is the largest problem that you're uniquely solving? Just give me that one thing. So you talked about a lot of solutions. So if there's one
Targeting and out of home is the first problem that we're really getting to.
Perfect. Okay. I think when we look at that, we have the same we have the same kind of solutions in mind, and we're constantly evaluating this stuff. So what's the scale and size of what you can deliver right now for us? Scale meaning like how many cities is it in, and size literally meaning how big are the units, and what kind of inventory can you actually deliver this way?
Well, basically, we're supporting video units at this point of the standard sizes that are available. Okay. That gives us the ability also to transfer that traffic that comes in from the website to traffic it onto out of home.
Okay, so it's standard.
With standard video format.
You said you had a lot of questions. How about another one?
Oh yeah, sure. So talk to me about attribution. How are you going to, how can you, yeah, exactly. Attribution, as you said. How accessible or flexible is your attribution model to including it in other attribution models? Either you bring in other data, and you said, yes, you could bring in data from direct mail, but what about television? I mean, you run a lot of TV. I've seen it.
We do. Thank you.
So that's the bigger question, isn't digital to digital. We have a lot of attribution in that. Now digital out of home, because it's basically an extension, that's really great. That's really useful too. But how does a sign for AT&T on the street, how is that affected if the person's seeing the ad or not seeing the ad, whatever the message might be?
Well,
so
we actually are quite flexible in the ability to bring in multiple data sources that can be linked back, because we are associating devices back to a household or individual. Any data source that's tied back to that household or individual can be used as part of the analytics around the attribution. As a good example, we have run a test with a particular company that does addressable TV, and we're able to actually look at who they showed the ads to and then measure their store locations in Chicago to see what kind of response they were getting out.
Do you give them the data, or do they give you the data?
At that point, they gave us the data because we were running through a test scenario with them. But we have the ability, if we're fully integrated in and serving ads on that network, to provide the data from our side.
So we can get a unique identifier from you and bring it in to our side and reserve against it. Okay, that's interesting.
And as someone who is trying to get marketers to buy your digital screens, what do you think in terms of, is this something that you would want to attach to your product?
Yeah, absolutely. Attribution is key, as well as targetability. Our property is a point-of-care media company, so there are a lot of HIPAA, privacy, and compliance issues, and we're really not allowed to dig deeply into those consumers in the office, but to be able to understand who they are through the data that you could offer, I think would be a great benefit to us and to the advertisers. On the other side of that, I think there's something about this that is a little scary to me as a media company, in that, you know, I'm used to evaluating my performance on my own terms and my own basis, and that's relatively, you know, accepted in the marketplace. But now I'm going to have to be part of a sort of third-party way at looking and measuring performance. So, you know, I think that for folks in the media community in general, I think there's going to need to be a little bit of hand-holding to really get us to jump in on this thing.
Yeah, and I would say similar. I think that at GE, we are responsible for helping sell, or I guess place ads within airlines and airport clubs, which is extremely, has extreme privacy concerns. And so if someone is sitting in an executive club at Delta Sky Club, you know, I'd be curious as to how you're going to engage that consumer where it's not an intrusive way to be able to you know, protect that person's privacy, because they're usually C-level executives or someone of that nature. And so what restrictions do you put in there to be able to protect for that?
Well, we anonymize everything that comes through the network, so as we pass the device information back, we're anonymizing that and matching it at the back end. All PII is stored in a safe house partner so that we don't actually contain any of the PII in our own network. All we're keeping are the profiles that are associated with a particular identifier. So we really have no knowledge of who that person is at that point. But that gives us the opportunity then to pull that data and use it when we need to build an aggregate or individual profile for that location.
I would say one of the things that we are challenged with in this industry is there was talk earlier, I believe it was Visa, about how much budget is shifted to digital. And so we are, on our side, we're consistently trying to scratch and claw to try to consider ourselves digital. The D is for digital. But yet we do not fall within that world to allow for those budgets. And so we're usually separated from that. Do either of you feel that having this type of technology, whether it's Bulzli or something of that nature, to bring that in, is it going to kind of break down some of those walls when it comes to the marketing and the way, especially, I guess, the way the agencies are placed to place those buys? Is there a way to help for that?
I mean,
Either.
the way we plan at AT&T, I mean, we don't have a specific line item for each media type. We plan by initiative and our objectives and things like that. So if we have a specific message, let's just say in New York against the Hispanic community, we were doing something recently this year for a GoPhone, our prepaid product, we would look at that, what the need is, what the objective is, what neighborhoods we want to go in and things like that. So I don't think it's necessarily that there are walls to break down to get into a line item of a budget. It's just more like, what's the opportunity? What's the best way to reach people? How is the message being matched with the media type and things like that? Like I don't think the out-of-home line, so to speak, is just billboards anymore, and the digital line isn't search anymore. You know, it's a blend, and we don't necessarily look at it again by these silos. So while you think there might be walls, there aren't. You know, it's just what's the problem we're trying to solve, to use your great line, and what's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I totally agree with that.
Thanks.
But what I would also might say is, if somebody came to me and said they had an exclusive network that ran signs and had X millions of people going through it all the time, and they could dynamically serve and sequence advertising on it, and they own the whole rights to it, I'd be like, that's great. What is it? And they'd be like, it's the MBTA in Boston. So when you think about it that way, as an ad network and something that's exclusive and can be programmatic if it wanted to be, and all of these things that it could do, I think that the onus, you got to be more sexy, guys. I mean, it's like it's when you network these screens together, they don't become attached billboards or connected billboards. You start attaching more of these together, and you can program to them and do things. Now they become much more like an ad network. Now we're talking about programmatic, which everybody loves to talk about, but really marketing automation. These are the things that we really want to be able to do because it helps us scale to more people, be more discreet and more direct. And I think that's what it is. The technology's here. So I would say you can stay where you are. I don't think there's any prejudice against out-of-home advertising. It has its line items or its non-line items or however we're sort of thinking about it. But if you start talking about this in the terms that some of the other, let's say it more attention headline-grabbing medias speak about, I think that does get attention inside the agency. It does become an extension. And also it's like friction, right? It just becomes an extension of what we're already doing that makes it better and augments it. It's a lot less sales cycle for you, a lot less time, a lot access to budget. So, sweet, we're out of here.
Thank you very much for good thoughts. All right, welcome. Now we're going to be on to our next presenter. Great thinking, great thoughts, good. I'm going to hand it over to Joe Dale. Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
let's Joe introduce our next
I was like, the house is burning.
talent here.
So our next topic will be around mobile, which is something we talked a lot about today. More specifically about how we can take mobile and marry it with digital place-based media to sort of enhance our efforts and offerings. And to help us through that is Adam Meshekow, sorry about that. Adam is the Executive Vice President at SITO Mobile and in charge of product strategy and national sales. And SITO Mobile is a mobile communications company that enables advertisers and brands to be able to connect to consumers mobily to drive awareness, loyalty, engagement, and sales. So with that, Adam, please lead us down the path.
Well, thank you, everyone, for having us here. The entire stage is my clients now, so that's It's always a good thing when I'm out here pitching. A little bit about SITO. SITO is a 12-year-old mobile company. We're mobile at our core, and we've actually acquired a couple companies since we started. Our root is really in SMS and really kind of the non-sexy things of mobile, as we were talking about earlier. But we have a really deep core in out-of-home and really trying to bring attribution and make out-of-home sexy again. So, out-of-home works, and our goal is to really prove that it works using mobile and essentially an extension of out-of-home. So, why do we love out-of-home in general, and why does it make a line item on any given plan or not a line item on any given plan? And this includes digital. It's competitive CPM, there's no fraud, there's high reach, there's good frequency, it's always on. A lot of places have long dwell times and so forth. And then why do we love mobile? We have a mobile device that's with you all the time. You're accessing it 250 times a day. Get anxiety when it's not with you. You have a lot of scale. You can do consumer-centric marketing or personal marketing, which we talked about earlier with sequential messaging. And you have the ability to talk to these consumers really on a one-to-one basis. And hopefully you can transform that into out-of-home as well. So let's talk a little bit about dual screen targeting in general. Today, digital place-based is out there. It's typically one screen. There's not a lot of attribution to understand whether it works or it doesn't work. I have a little bit of a different background from my career standpoint. I was on the brand side, so I was actually looking at all of our media, specifically the mobile, and seeing how mobile actually primed the pump and what did it do specifically to drive sales and same-store sales lift. So, today you have out-of-home. You can talk to those people. You can use this data that is massive out there to not only plan out-of-home, but also to actually continue the conversation. And this really talks about passive versus non-passive, right? DR advertisers today have kind of lost their essence in the world. But they don't run 30-minute spots today for the Ninja blender because they think you're going to go pick up the phone and buy that Ninja blender right then and there. It's passive. So when you're cooking and you're thinking about things and you need to go to the store to buy a blender, all of a sudden you think about Ninja because that's what is in your mind and that's what you've heard while you were cooking in the kitchen with the TV on. So this is an example to essentially look at out-of-home media placement, retarget those people via mobile. You have those devices. You know where these people are. You know where they've been in real locations, and you can actually measure attribution to a physical store. So you're really bridging this digital out-of-home or even just traditional out-of-home and understanding where does that go and what does that mean for a consumer. So this just shows that today, we have an example here. It's not just out-of-home. It's not just digital out-of-home. We work in a variety of categories. We work with direct mail or the old traditional publishers. We work mobile standalone. We're working very closely to work on addressable TV. TV specifically used to be really simple to reach 100 million people. It's very fragmented today, right? Talk to a millennial, try to call them on the phone, see if they even watch live TV. It's very rare. So how do we talk to these people today? Now smart TVs are over 100 million people. There's a lot of device data out there and household data that's completely addressable.
It's not.
So then how do we measure that data sources specifically to while they're at home, while they're at work, while they're at a leisure activity, and how do we essentially measure attribution? So, what business problems are we solving today? Number one, we drive foot traffic to store, and we can measure sales lift. We have this data today. The clients have CRM systems with loyalty data. It's very easy to do closed-loop attribution today. You know what device you serve ads to today. You know when they physically walked into the store, and you can actually measure that back to credit card spends and bill pay, et cetera. From a tender perspective, not as much. And I apologize because AT&T has some of the prepay, and that is actually a lot of cash business, so it's hard to measure. But most of it, you have a lot of data today to measure. We verify attribution, so we use pure lat long data points, and it's very big. We see about 95% of the US audience, so for smartphone-specific audience. So we have a ton of data that we can use. And we can verify attribution all the way down to a store level. Forget panel-based or Nielsen-based. You have this data today. People agree to use this location. If it's hexed and anonymized and you're not touching any PII data, you can actually measure results both from out-of-home plus mobile, and even other methodologies where you're using others. Analytics are key, right? Not only the analytics that we provide to provide ROI from specific ad campaigns, but how do you plan out your current campaigns, right? Today, we look at census data, we look at certain locations, this has a high household income, this has a high propensity for Hispanics, or whatever it happens to be. But now you know exactly who's walking by there. You know their behavior patterns. Where you go in the physical world, we're creatures of habit. We know this information, so we can use it in a planning perspective, not just for out of home or not just for digital out of home, but for TV and for digital and for search, et cetera. Personalized content, so this is something that I like to focus on that I think no one is doing today, we have the capability today to use these big data sources that we have readily available today. And no one is really understanding the sequential messaging of passive versus non-passive creative. And this is really a creative question. Tell a creative that they have to build 40 different modules to make something personalized, and they'll tell you, wait a minute, I'm just going to build this banner ad. I'm just going to build this video, and that's it. But the reality is you have the capability to do that, and consumer-centric marketing is one of the key differentiators to growth in general for new business. So, as a marketer, I know for a fact that this is something that is happening, but don't just trust me. I mean, this is what McKinsey is saying as one of the top 5 things that retailers need to do in order to succeed into the future. And advanced technology, so we own all of our own ad tech in-house. We own our DMP, or a database management platform, which is really core focused on location, also with third-party data segments as well. We have a demand-side platform, or an area where we can actually link these devices and link out-of-home and mobile and be able to talk to one another to serve across all kinds of mobile publications. And then we have attribution engine, which is one-to-one, which we can essentially measure.
So if you don't mind, we got some sharks there that are biting at the bit. And if we can kind of just wrap up yours and then get to the rest of the show, because the commercials are coming on in a few minutes, okay? So don't interrupt, but why don't you maybe wrap up your last few points, and then let's hear from these guys, okay?
All right, cool.
Great.
This is just an example of attribution on a one-to-one basis, and I think it's important to see this is a problem that we're solving. This is really one-to-one broken down by line item or store or even physical location. We can do that today without a home, and it's something that's not being leveraged to the greatest capability. And this just talks about the dynamic creative that I just talked about. So this has the ability to change, your location is different, the time of day is different, the city is different, whether it's AM or PM, is it raining out, is it not raining out? We have cameras today on digital out-of-home boards that could, with a 96% accuracy, can say what's the age of the person walking by or standing in front of it with a dwell time, and what is the gender. I mean, that's enough to change at least a little bit of creative.
So I love this model. I think it adds a lot of depth and richness to the out-of-home space. And Michael, I'll ask you, since you touch so many brands, what are your thoughts on this model? Do you have any current advertisers who are activating against it?
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of brands that have their own retail stores. They also sell online, like Vans, for instance, or Timberland. They're really involved in this. They really want to understand this. Adam, what are you seeing as a performance difference when you do dynamic creative versioning versus not?
It depends on how many attributes that people put into the creative. And at the end of the day, sometimes we see as high as 50%, and sometimes we don't see a huge difference. It really depends on the work that's getting done really on the planning side versus how we execute it.
Do you guys help them make the ads, or do
We do.
you guys have a studio and you guys?
So we have the ability to not just do creative based on typical data sources like weather or gender or age. We actually have the ability to do it on behavior. So we can understand not only were they near and out-of-home placement, but they also are a Walmart shopper, or they're also happen to be on an AT&T device. And there's all different rules that are business rules that can be made. And we typically start with 3 to 5 attributes, test it out, and show these folks that this really works. And it's a little bit more work on the forefront, but you see the results on the back end. But eventually, typically, we want to move to that full model.
What have you learned along the way since you've launched? Like, how have you course corrected, or what's sort of the biggest lesson that you've learned that you've fixed and now do something differently?
Yeah, so but we
I guess
acquired
what's really sucked, and then what have you changed?
So, I think the biggest problem in mobile today is, there's a lot of technology out there today, and I think the biggest issue in general is it's not just technology. Technology is about 50% of the equation. But strategy is crucially important to planning and executing any kind of integrated campaign and so forth. And that's one of the biggest problems we resolve. So a lot of location-based partners today say, yeah, we can geofence all these different places. And yeah, that's great, right? At that specific time, at that specific point in time. But if you geofence someone at a Burger King and they're in a Burger King trying to send them to McDonald's, they're not going to McDonald's, right? You need to influence past behaviors and other behaviors really based on the audience. So that's one thing that we corrected once we acquired one of the companies that we acquired.
Scott, as a media company, what do you think about this solution, and how can it help your business?
Yeah, I think that, to Mike's point, I mean, we're trying to get sexier, and this adds a sex appeal to it because it's got data and numbers, and it's a technology in an industry that we fight to do it. My concern goes to your prior question, though, is how can we actually scale this to make it meaningful for us?
I mean, we're doing it today. This is not something that's new. We work with a lot of out-of-home companies or digital place-based companies in this room. So, Health Media Network being one of them, and others, and we empower them to sync data sources to essentially do this today. This is not something new. We work with
What
probably
percentage of that customer of theirs that they're reaching are you actually hitting and influencing?
It's hard to say because it depends on their physical footprint specifically, but I would say, a good amount. If the people that are actually going by their out-of-home or in their physical screen-based locations, they're using their phone. I mean, walk down the street today and you walk into people because they're sitting here going like this. They're on their phone, they're doing different things. All of that data sources you have the ability to understand. And this kind of goes back to my passive versus invasive, I guess, or interrupted advertising. People are passively seeing these ads, whether they're at a gas station or on a plane or in a doctor's office or wherever these specific captive audiences are. They're seeing these ads. It's primed to the pump, and then once you prime that with retargeting and frequency, reach, and relevance, you can drive real results, as high as 50% results we've seen with
I really like this, but you have two parts that are really, really important, and there's this one part that I keep waiting for you to say, which is what are you doing in the retail environment? So, because to me, the recontact works in reverse. If I see that somebody's gone into the store, not just they're in the store in general, but let's say it's a Beacon network, whatever we have in the store that we can see, and we see what grid they're standing in, and we know they're standing in front of a phone or a pair of shoes, whatever it is, and they go back out in the world too quickly, like they haven't gone by the register, we can tell. That's when that billboard, that's when I want that dynamically created ad to recontact and try, and then that's when the whole point about McDonald's and Burger King's right. That's when you coupon them. That's when you start to do things to try and get them to come back and close the loop. That's something that we talk about a lot. So where are your thoughts on kind of that?
So retail is my background, and it's an interesting approach, right? Especially in grocery specifically. I'll use CPG as an example. There's a lot of out-of-home for CPG that's out there today. The reality is the majority of CPG retail is actually done at 5 stores. And people want to talk to those people while they're in those stores. So whether it's Walmart, Target, Walgreens, et cetera. And how do we talk to them while they're in their stores? So we know they were exposed. We want to talk to them in those stores. We're doing campaigns like that every day.
But Timberland knows inside their store, they run a grid of beacons. They know you stood in this grid. They know what inventory is in front of you. And they know if you went out and didn't stand in front of the other grid, that's where the cash register is.
I think the biggest concern with beacons in general is scale, and I think that's everyone's concern. But I personally believe that retailers will use beacon technology as a listening device for themselves, and then eventually, use that data to just as CRM data is used today, they'll use that in a media capacity.